Hi, Megan.
Hi, Laura. How are you?
I'm good. Hi,
I'm s-
Audrey.
Hi, Laura.
Good to see you.
Yeah,
Well,
you got
there
the
you
little
are.
one to bed, huh?
Hi. Yes. Just, momming it up.
Uh-huh.
Megan, I do have a slideshow. I don't know if I could drop you the link so that you could
Fabulous.
share it.
I'm just actually making you the host as we speak.
Oh, perfect.
So you will be able to share. Excellence.
Great. Just bear with me a moment.
Apologies for just showing you half of my head. I'm actually in Tracy Steele's session right now. So I just wanted to make sure you were on okay.
Hold on, bear with me a sec.
I wasn't able to get in. Well, I mean, you opened it, right? Is that what happened? Yeah.
That's so funny. Zoom is, we've avoided most problems today. A couple of the Zoom calls though have been a little finicky.
Did Rachel Martin ever end up in her?
Yes.
But it was complicated. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's fine. She's gonna record it for us though. So we'll have it at a later point.
All right. Well,
Well,
glad to be here, Laura.
a little hand is here. What happened? I thought you were sleeping. You want to say hello? Oh my God. She hears mommy talking late at night.
Oh,
say hello.
hello.
Hi.
Okay, just go to sleep. Bye-bye. Oh my gosh. All right. Anyways, hi everybody. Good evening. I guess we'll just kick it off. Bye. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
We don't have any further interruptions. Let me go ahead and start this slideshow. So hello everybody. I already know most of you, but I am Laura Fitzgerald. I am Paulina Fonseca. Yes. Well, this is going to be very hard for mommy if you go lay down. Thanks. Okay. So my gremlin is going to sleep. Okay, so anyways, as I was saying, I'm an alumna of TCNJ and the Mallorca program, and I graduated in 2014. I am currently an assistant principal with Montgomery County Public Schools in Maryland, although I do live in DC. Prior to this role, I also worked with Fairfax County Public Schools, and I also served as an assistant principal with a charter school here in DC. And I also served as a head of school in New York City, but I have also worked internationally in China. I was in China for 6 years, and then I also worked in Spain and for a short time in Dakar with Audrey. And I currently supervise world language, health, PE, and our EML program, which is for emerging multilingual learners, otherwise known as ESOL, but that's Montgomery County's acronym, EML. And in my free time, I also serve on the board of a charter school here in DC called DC Scholars. And I also serve as an accreditation evaluator with Middle States Association. And I've done that now for quite a number of years. And bear with me a second. So tonight, I just want to talk about how I've been working on my own journey to kind of move beyond school leadership. And this actually came about prior to, this great transition coming off the pandemic, as a lot of people are shifting, gears and thinking beyond what they were already doing. But basically, I just want to highlight, for anybody else aspiring to move beyond school leadership, like what else can they do with their skill set, and specifically how they could develop a B2C consulting book of business versus a B2B consulting book of business. So I'll get right to it. So why consulting? Again, prior to the pandemic, my first leadership role, as I said before, was in New York City. And I had actually gotten that leadership role 12 days after giving birth. I started working as a principal. And so that was a lot to take on because the school I was working at in New York City was a pre-K3 through grade 8 school. I'm sorry, bear with me a second, please. Leave the light alone. Thank you. Anyways, well, we'll just go with it. All right, you like that one? Thanks. So the school I was working at in New York City was pre-K3 through grade 8. So in and of itself, running 3 divisions was quite a lot. And then on top of that, the school was also hosting the UPK DOE classrooms on site, which was one of the first launch years of that initiative in New York City. So there was a lot going on, and I realized very quickly that I said, oh gosh, okay, being a new mom and being a school leader was going to be a lot. So I initially really wanted flexibility and better work-life balance. And then as I've taken on multiple leadership roles, again, serving in New York City, working in Fairfax County, and now in Montgomery County, for me, after 6 years of being a school leader at this point, now I'm kind of like, thinking beyond, and I want to be more utilizing more strategic leadership and utilizing, kind of macro level thinking rather than just the day-to-day grind, quite frankly, of, being a school leader and dealing with a lot of discipline and stuff. And along those lines, thinking about autonomy, mastery, and purpose, I'm a big fan of Daniel Pink's book, Drive. And what drives people, as he comes to conclude, was the autonomy, mastery, and purpose concept. And again, really like in the day-to-day of a school leader, a lot of times, the things that you're practicing on a day-to-day basis, you don't actually really like, for me at least, I don't really get a sense that you get a whole lot better at giving out suspensions and giving out detentions. So it's definitely something that I want to move beyond, and I'm sure other school leaders, they might be considering the same. And so there we go. So my first foray into trying to, figure out how to get into consulting and be paid for my expertise. When I was still in Shenzhen, when my daughter was a year old, we went back to China, my family and I was working as a dean of students there. And I had launched a consulting business. I had the whole WOFI, so I could speak to anybody who's interested in that process, because that in and of itself can be a session, I'm sure. But it's a pretty complicated process in China, but in any event, so I launched that, and it was pretty great because I was helping local families. Actually, I started out trying to do and help expat families connect to special education resources and special education related service providers like speech language pathologists, OTs, PTs, even therapists to support students' mental health issues. But then it actually expanded, and I was able to connect with a lot of local families, local Chinese families that were looking for special education support and help. And really working through just word of mouth, my business was expanding pretty quickly. And even with that, I was able to connect with international schools in the greater Guangdong province. And I was able to coach teachers directly. And that was more B2B business model, which is, business to business rather than business to client model. But it was pretty fast growth. So that was really exciting. But then my husband's job opportunity brought us back stateside, and the pandemic broke out. So it kind of worked out. And once I came back stateside, I connected with Weinfeld Education Group, which is a local consulting firm here in the greater DMV, DC, Maryland, Virginia region. And it's along a similar, style of work. I actually still work with them as a consultant, and basically I help advocate for families and their students and their children to try to get better services for them, help advocate for better placements and appropriate placements, working in partnership with attorneys. So, and that really was like an amazing opportunity. It was just very serendipitous timing, because when the pandemic broke out and a lot of kids were getting denied services because of the online learning, it was a really powerful experience to be able to help kids when we transitioned back to the buildings, to be able to connect them with the services that they so desperately needed and they weren't necessarily getting during the peak of the pandemic. And I will say, just reflecting quickly, for anybody interested in this pathway of becoming a consultant and working, essentially assisting families, one family at a time, I will say, in the age of technology, it's a slow process, again, to build that book of business and to be able to get those word of mouth referrals, and even pleasing families, like one family at a time. there might be more efficient ways to connect to a target audience than just trying to, please families one at a time. And I will say, especially in the special education space, that's a very delicate space. And I'll speak to that in just a little bit, but when you're thinking about how you're going to target your ideal audience and who your target demographic is, there's some other factors that play into servicing families that are, trying to help their children with special needs. And it's definitely something that is a unique space, but I could speak to more on that in just a couple of minutes. So shifting to B2B consulting, thinking about now how I can leverage the experience that I already have as a school building leader, plus now as a B2C consultant, but now I'm thinking more, again, macro level thinking of how am I now going to leverage my experience and my skill set into a B2B consulting business. And so again, as I already mentioned, I have been working family by family in the special education space, but just this school year, I won a contract with a DC charter here, which I'm going to be doing a special education audit. So I'm really excited about that, and billing the school directly. And so again, like that B2B business model where I'm not, trying to satisfy families one family at a time and trying to build up a book of business in that way, but rather, taking on bigger projects and more funding, it's like more lucrative. So that's a great next step. And then I also am now consulting on the ed tech side of things as well. I work with a company that sends me various platforms to review, and I basically just give my input as a school building leader, how I would personally implement these kind of platforms in my setting. And that's also something that companies, ed tech firms, they're willing to pay big bucks to get people, get user feedback especially in beta mode, rather than waiting until the product hits the market and then they have to quickly scramble and recover from any unanticipated setbacks. And so I'm kind of doing more of that front end work of reviewing what they have to offer, and then giving them some feedback, making it more functional, more effective, how I would envision it in a school setting. And then they're able to then go back to the drawing board, quickly make those edits and launch their product. And I will say, oh, sorry, I jumped ahead, pardon me. I will say, specific to the ed tech market, it's been a really exciting space to be working in. So if you're a person who really thrives off of, fast pace and just like in an innovative space, I've personally, that's me, and I really have enjoyed like working within the ed tech space, because as a school building leader, again, even when I'm training and coaching and working with teachers, it's kind of a slow process to oftentimes get teachers to operate at a capacity that I myself as their supervisor need them to work at, and or what the organization needs for that teacher to work at. So it's a very different space working with ed tech firms and developers, because it's pretty awesome, because you could just tell them, okay, I need to fix X, Y, and Z, and they fix it in the code, and then voila, it's done. So it's moving a lot faster, and it's just, for me, a little more enjoyable. I don't know if other people will feel the same, but again, I'm just sharing on my experience, so hopefully it's of value. And then specific to
Laura?
operation, oh, yeah.
I'm really sorry. I'm not seeing the slideshow. I don't know if I'm the only one.
Oh,
I just see the slides, but it's not.
Yeah,
in present mode.
I was thinking the same thing. So it's just, you need to click on slideshow, and then it'll bring it up in the big.
okay, hold on one sec. I'm not sure if I'm doing it right. Bear with me. What can you see now? Oh,
Okay, so now we see 03, but in
Yeah.
small, still kind of like most half the screen, and then the side panel. But if you click on slideshow,
yeah.
and then it should,
You see it now?
not yet.
Huh. It's showing on my end that I'm
So
sharing
what
my
we're
Yeah, that's
screen.
why I'm wondering. It's how you shared your screen in the first place. Maybe it's not a big deal. We should just move on.
Yeah, we can
Hold on,
read
I'll
it.
drop the link in the chat. Hold on, you guys can follow along that way.
Yeah, we can read it too. It's not.
Oh, you can see it?
Mhm.
Oops, hold on.
Yeah, but I think you'll just need to keep scrolling. I think that's fine.
Hold on one second. Let me just change the Here, I'll drop the link in the chat if you want to follow along. Sorry about that. That's funny. Oop, just bear with me a sec. Thanks for letting me know. All right, there we are. Okay. Well, I'll just follow along on my end and hopefully you guys can see it on your end via the link. Anyway, so what I was going to say about operations, and I'll touch on this in just a couple minutes, like specific to the DC area of resources that are here. But another thing that I'm working on from a B2B standpoint is that here in DC, you know, we're very fortunate that we have like a lot of government agencies and different kind of, you know, basically government work that's happening, and they need consultants on the ground to be doing their legwork. And so something that the small business development and like the agency here in DC focuses a lot on, you know, they have different subsets like, you know, female entrepreneurs and African-American entrepreneurship. And something that they're really trying to push, at least here in DC, is green initiatives. So I just signed up for another training to become LEED certified, which is to help businesses, and specific to my market, to help schools become more eco-friendly. And so same thing, being able to go into a school and conduct basically a green audit and see what kind of practices are currently in place and what practices need to be in place so that they can, you know, become a green certified business and basically get some kickback from the government and funding, and just another branding tactic, at least from the business or the organization standpoint. And then another future goal I have that I'm working on right now is how to break into consulting for bilingual education projects, you know, and really help more schools across the United States in particular, you know, develop bilingual models. The school that I worked at here in DC, that's a charter, it's called Mundo Verde, and it is a Spanish-English bilingual and immersion program. And the partner organization that they work with is called EL Education. And so EL also has some consulting opportunities, so I'm working on that. But that's more for strategic planning and also for coaching teachers. For me, that's not really necessarily a space that I want to keep, you know, sticking with for the time being, but certainly, you know, again, just to like familiarize myself with bilingual education. I will say I'm actually more interested in consulting with bilingual education on the B2C side. I'm more interested in helping families, you know, one by one get access to bilingual opportunities and being able to help support parents when they're operating in that space and, you know, navigating that space. If you're with me on the slides, I'm on slide number 4 right here, talking about how to develop a consulting expertise so that it will resonate with your target audience. As I was mentioning before, you know, I have done a lot of consulting work within the special education sphere, but I will say I am not a parent of a student or a child with neurodiversity. So I think that that quite frankly has hindered my ability to not necessarily serve the families in the best possible way, but I will say they definitely, like a lot of the consultants that I work with WEG, with Weinfeld Education Group, you know, they are parents of neurodiverse children, and I feel like you know, they just bring a different perspective to the table that I might not necessarily offer, because again, I don't have a child who has neurodiversity. And then I will say, and actually that's kind of like along the lines of why I'm actually interested in kind of shifting gears to go to bilingual education, because my child is in a Chinese immersion school. And so I could speak to that experience both as a parent, again, trying to navigate that space, but then also as a school leader who has, you know, tried to navigate that space with children, but also families. I think it's really important when you're operating in the consultant space is that we're solving burning questions. And at the end of the day, you're increasing efficiency and efficacy for businesses and organizations. You know, obviously it's nice to be able to just like go in. I mean, for me, I like to be able to go in and kind of look under the hood, so to speak. But if you're not really offering a service that will save the business money and or time and or develop any other sort of efficacy or efficiency, you know, it's going to be a hard sell and it's going to feel arduous. but if you're selling something or a service that, you know, again, is solving those burning questions and really helping the organization operate with greater, you know, efficiency and efficacy, then people are willing to fork up the dough. And along those lines, how do we avoid those pitfalls that will cost you time and money? So I will say I was really lucky when I was in Shenzhen and I was launching Next Level Achievement. I worked with a fabulous business coach. She was a Brazilian woman. I'm still in touch with her now. And like she, you know, we do frequent check-ins, but really having her to guide me along the way was invaluable. And I actually met her through the networking group that's there in Shenzhen. They call themselves ABNet, which is the Asia Business Networking group. And it was great because we had weekly luncheons. So we checked in on a weekly basis, and they were really pivotal in helping me familiarize myself with like different vendors I should connect with when I was launching my Wolf, like the Chinese equivalent of an LLC. And really like not being afraid to, you know, talk to people and put myself out there, which I feel like is, you know, pretty natural for us expats, but, you know, there are certainly times that you feel more introverted and maybe a little apprehensive, but definitely, you know, putting yourself out there and not being afraid. And then even here stateside, as I mentioned earlier, specific to the DC market, here in DC, we have like a really awesome and robust small business development agency. And again, they put on events all the time, and they really try to empower entrepreneurship and people who are aspiring to move into that space. And there's like plenty of opportunity and plenty of funding. It's just a matter of having the time, energy, and resilience to be able to weed through all of that and, you know, basically make it happen. So, but as I said, this is very much a work in progress because I am still working full time within the school system. I think for me, the biggest barrier to not, you know, to completely walk away from like the K-12 sector is just the more practical side of things like pension and health insurance, because here in the States, you know, those things are pretty costly. So that's pretty much where I'm at right now. But as I mentioned in my description, I am happy to swap ideas or to bounce ideas off of, you know, other like-minded folks. So if you are interested in reaching out to me, that's my email. I'm on LinkedIn. And I will say I have gotten a lot of opportunity through LinkedIn as well. So if you're not currently using LinkedIn, I would definitely, you know, take advantage of that because it's a great tool. And I'm really fortunate that we're in the digital age and we have these amazing opportunities. So thank you. And with like 4 minutes to spare, does anybody have any questions or any immediate ideas? Jacqueline, I know you're a consultant, but I suppose you're more B2C model, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, definitely. But, you know, when you started talking about tech companies, I thought, oh my gosh, why am I not getting involved with that? You know, because of my 20 years of teaching experience and having used tech and know, like, it really piqued my interest. So I've taken some of your information down so we can touch base later. But yeah, why am I not reaching out to these ed tech companies and saying, do you want like a 20-year teaching veteran expertise advice on how to fix this thing? Because I can help you.
Yeah, and I will say, and it is crazy, like the ed tech space in particular is sort of a wild, wild west space because there are no barriers and it's not like the FDA where like when they're launching medicine, you know, they have to go through trials and they have to demonstrate that like it's actually, you know, an effective medicine or, you know, it won't harm people. But anybody with basically with the capital to be able to launch a platform, whether it be a website or an app, can go ahead and launch it. And there's really no gatekeepers like working in that space to keep kids safe, number one. And number two, like the amount of money that school districts are spending on technology that may or may not even yield the results that they think they're going to be able to produce by investing in these platforms is just like eye-watering. And I feel like that's also something that's not unique to the United States. I feel like this is most likely a global problem. because if it's not even being kind of gatekeep here in the States, I would imagine that it might be a little more loosey-goosey even internationally. I mean, I would imagine maybe like in Europe and the UK, they might have more, strict restrictions. But yeah, it's been an eye-opening experience. And I will say, while reviewing all of these different platforms and apps, I mean, I can't tell you, I mean, for the exception of Kahoot, which was one platform that I was working with, the amount of apps that don't even align to standards, and they have like zero functionality and conversation, any sort of communication between what's happening at the school and what the parents need at home. Like there's a huge disconnect, and I feel like that market is just going to keep getting bigger and bigger. And that's why I'm saying, like, even for me, as a result of the pandemic, I was probably in very lonely company, because I was excited when not when the pandemic happened per se, but like the shift to virtual learning. I was like, this is it, everybody, like we're gonna do some awesome things, like this is amazing. And I really enjoyed all of that energy of like, okay, we got to problem solve, we got to get this going, we got to try this, try that. And it's been tough for me, quite frankly, like going back to the building and like going back to the normal, because I was like, the normal wasn't really so great. And not that and I feel like as an industry, as the education sector, we didn't really get the opportunity to kind of work out the kinks. It was like that, and at least here in the States, it was that big push and rush to go back to the normal, and open the doors, and get the kids back in the classrooms. And it was like, but I wish we had enough time to kind of, keep up the momentum and really, really perfect what we had already started out to implement, But thank you so much for your time, everybody. And I would love to connect further and, again, just share out resources. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Laura.
Good to see you. Bye.
Yeah, bye.
Thank you.